Maurizio, it's great to have you on the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for inviting.
Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about Bidroom? What is the company? What's it all about? And actually, what's really interesting is how you came to be a part of it. So maybe give us the whole sort of origin story, as it were.
Yeah. So when I joined Bidroom was the first membership-based OTA in the industry. So I thought it was a great idea, a great product, and a great team also with a lot of potential. So I decided to join the company also because the company wanted to expand their technology. And I've been in technology for many, many years. And so I decided to join this amazing team. Um, and actually, after joining, we pivoted the strategy into this direction. So
Hmm.
today, Bidroom is more um, a travel tech company, I would say. We are much more focused on product than actually in being an OTA. So we are focusing technology. We actually created from scratch a new platform for a complete travel platform with products for hoteliers and for connectivity. And we have a white label OTA so that we can create multiple OTAs for our partners. So I can say that we are much more focused on the supply side.
Hmm.
In the company, most of the investors are hoteliers or ex-hoteliers, and we are always been a lot closer to the problems that hoteliers have in the
Hmm.
industry. And there are many, we know.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, God, there's so many directions we could go here. I mean, if you've got a bunch of investors that are former hoteliers and, people that are in the industry, the thing that's always amazed me is the fragmentation in the tech space in hotels. How a lot of platforms never really seem to develop or get updated as times change, and it can be really hard to find the right solutions to meet the needs of your guests and the changing needs of their guests as time goes on, even though we all know kind of that there's all these issues. It just seems like this huge haystack of
That's true.
of issues, right? That you got to kind of pull every little strand out to try to realign the back end. And I'm curious, from your side, as an outsider, as a hospitality outsider, I'll put air quotes around that.
Yes, yeah.
What was your what was surprising to you when you came into this space? What did you see?
Oh, I was really surprised. I was really surprised to see the, the lack of evolution and in this industry. It's like it was, I don't know, frozen 20 years ago.
Hmm.
And they always say,
Yep.
wow, this, uh, there's a lot that can be done. And the fragmentation, lack of real standards was actually the problem. And also the lack of open platforms. That's another characteristic I would say of this industry, where you see that there are PMS that are kind of closed, that don't want to be integrated with other, or maybe with channels or with other platforms, or where you have a lot of fragmentation in the distribution. So starting from the hoteliers, the kind of product they have, and there is still products that many of the products in other industry nobody would use them.
Mm.
Really, they are still sometimes they are still using desktop applications or application that
Yeah.
you need to have a server with IT support for managing it. So things that we are not seeing in other industry for decades probably.
Yeah.
But they are still very popular in this industry. Um, Most likely because they have been developed for many years, and that's true. But it's also true that maybe there's been a lack of demand in the evolution of the technology of these tools. So kind of the developers of these platforms said, okay, but if it's not a requirement from our clients, why bother to actually refactor
Hmm.
the technologies and the approaches for these products? And and probably, yeah, this is the kind of main issue. And of course, there are so many small products that are in the industry that every of them has a different integration approach or
Hmm.
different services, and this is a problem. This is a
Yeah.
problem for the distribution. So maybe the hoteliers um sees the as a need for PMS for managing their hotels or their chain. And the first thing they look at, of course, are the requirements for these PMS or CRS products that actually can meet their needs. Um, but after that, they need to integrate their systems to some distribution system or to other products, for example, for managing aspects that are not actually managed by the PMS that need some kind of external integrations. And there we see the biggest problems. So all the companies that lately have been trying to innovate in this area, in our opinion, are those that can be the next leaders in this industry. Because
Yeah. Yeah, and it's the ones that are, I suppose, addressing the issue of the lack of innovation in the legacy providers, and it's the ones that are recognizing the problems that exist with the structure of the industry today that are trying to solve it. I guess there's almost two paths, and maybe at some point those are going to come together. But what's the issue that Bidroom is trying to solve? What did you guys see that needed your attention?
um, well, let's say we started first of all looking at the distribution aspect. This is a big pain, in my opinion, in the industry for the distribution, because also there we see a lot of fragmentation, a lot of small channel managers, or even very successful channel managers that actually provide very little support, very little quality or features for distribution. We have been facing all kind of problems trying to create a platform, a connectivity platform to integrate all different channels into one single platform that can be used by our partners, or simply to open this kind of data. Because today, everything is the real value is about using data. Okay, if this data is difficult to reach, um, for example, we see a lot of big players that are connected to channel managers. True, in most cases they are connected to pool channel managers, and pool channel managers are kind of a weird thing because they are not just channel managers. They are actually they are kind of API, OTA in form of API.
Hmm.
Okay, so everything happen inside the channel manager. Let's say that you get information that is pre-baked from the channel manager. And so that means that easy to integrate with this kind of channel managers. You don't have to do much. You have a user that makes
Hmm.
a search on your OTA. You just take the search and you move it
Display
to
it.
the APA
Yeah.
at the same time, and then you get back the result. So the OTA has to do very little. to actually integrate these channel managers. Um, the problem is that, yeah, they're moving just the problem, because now the problem about their scalability, about their quality, is all about the channel manager, because now the engine, the search engine, is actually in the channel manager.
Mm.
And this doesn't actually solve their problem, because if they want to scale, we have seen, we call it in the engineering world, service level objectives. So, oh, promise me to respond to my request
Hmm.
in a decent time. I mean, in less than a second, or
Right.
less than 100 milliseconds.
Right. Right.
And we haven't seen this kind of numbers in this industry. We have been seeing most of the time there are no at all service level agreements,
Hmm.
because they can just cannot promise anything to you
Yeah.
that you are a client of the API. And we have seen a channel manager, top channel manager, responding in 2, 3, 5, 6, 10 seconds to our request. So,
Hmm.
and you say, okay, is this 2020, 2022? What year is this?
You just see
Because
the little circle. You hit search and it's just rolling.
exactly.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
And consider that this problem of connecting to pool channel manager, if you want to actually use this data to provide an additional service, because the distribution, it just should be just raw data. And then you can apply some kind of intelligence on top of this data to
Hmm.
provide additional services to users. And with this kind of channel manager, it's kind of impossible. So we have some kind of a few integrations with pool channel managers, but we are expanding more and more channel managers that are connected in a push. Uh,
Got it.
in push, we get directly data, maybe with some lag, with some delay, but the data that is coming directly from the PMS in terms of messages, it's pushed to us. Um, any data. So anytime there is, I don't know, a booking in a room, the availability of that room is decreased and a message is sent to us. And just to give you an idea, you can get around 1,500 messages per property per day.
Mm.
So there's a lot of
Every little
data,
change, every little
every
thing
little
would be
change.
a message, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's actually what we like the most, because we can use this data to understand what's going on. So, how quickly the hotels are selling their properties, what kind of, rooms, what kind of rooms they are selling fast, for what dates. So, there is a lot of analysis and intelligence you can build around this kind of data.
Yeah, and that's you bring up an interesting point here. So if you can get going with a push system rather than just going and querying and pulling data, you get you can get more information faster, essentially.
Exactly.
What
Exactly.
what do you do with that information? Because if you can get many thousands of messages per hotel per day, is maybe all of that's relevant, maybe it isn't. But what happens down the chain then? So you have all of this data. What do you do with it? How does that affect your strategy as a hotel?
Let's say that first of all, we use that data as operational data. So to manage actually our searches on our platform and bookings and so on. That means that we we need to be able to ingest all these messages and make a sense of them and be able to answer the searchers for all kind of criteria. But in this case, the real search engine, the real what is called the ARI store, is in our systems, and that means that we can respond to as many searches as we want. Usually, pool channel managers, they put a limit. They can say,
Mm.
okay, you can make maybe 100 searches per booking. So you cannot search too much without making booking because I'm making money with bookings. So you cannot search too much because
Got it.
every search is actually putting some kind of weight on my systems. So they don't want to receive a lot of, they want to receive a lot of bookings, not a lot of searches.
Interesting.
But when you are connected in push mode, you can manage how many searches you want, how many bookings you want. Actually, more searches you get, the better because we understand what users are searching. So you can also, that's another stream of data, uh, the behavior of users. And so
Mm.
you can understand what users are interested in the most, in what period or what kind of hotels and so on. So we collect all these streams of data in real time, and we are building a lot of intelligence around that. So from analytical data, and we are learning around this data. So we are understanding the trends, what's going on in the industry, and so we can in this phase we are actually learning. Okay, so we
Mhm.
are analyzing this data. We are running machine learning algorithms to actually develop models of what is going on in the industry and what are the trends, how they change. And with this intelligence, we are creating services for our hoteliers and for our partners.
Mm.
So that hoteliers, for example, we can provide suggestions on how to make my money.
Yeah.
And to, if, for example, there are other hotels that are similar to yours, and they are actually moving in their prices. They are changing their prices for specific dates. And so we can tell you, oh, look, in the industry, in your region, in your area, hotels similar to yours are having this behavior. Maybe you would be interested to change this behavior as well so that you can be
Yeah.
competitive. And so we provide yeah,
Yeah.
a different perspective that can be actionable by hoteliers, and
Yeah.
similar services also to our partners that run OTAs or
Mhm.
yeah or search
Yeah, it seems
engines.
to me, yeah, it seems to me that the one of the biggest benefits here, and you just touched on it, is the revenue management piece, is that you can get more information, uh, more relevant information faster that can inform decisions. And so this is kind of a two-part question here. Does does the platform, does Bidroom then make suggestions, and you just alluded to this, on how a hotel should be adjusting rates relative to what's going on in the market? And then at the same time, that's also a feature that a lot of dynamic pricing tools sell you on, is that they will tell you what's going on in the market and then make suggestions, and in some cases they'll make the changes for you on the fly, and then you just have to approve or deny them. And I'm wondering, I suppose, so the first question is that a feature of Bidroom? And the second question is, are you able to make suggestions faster, better, some other thing that sort of circumvents the existing dynamic pricing tools that are out there?
That's a good question. We are working on it. So consider that we are not just a tool that we provide to properties. We manage our own supply. So we are connected to more than 60,000 hotels and directly contracted, and we care a lot about giving a service back to these hotels. Um, why? Also because we ask for discounts from these hotels on their rates, discounts that we give to our users. Okay, so we want to provide value back to these hotels. And so we developed what is called an extranet, so actually an application for hoteliers. First of all, I think it's one of the most user-friendly extranet in the industry. So we have seen extranets that are really not nice to use,
Yeah.
really. Yeah, they're like,
You're being kind.
yes, I know. So this was one of the first focus we had, developing a really user-friendly application for the hotelier to manage their property, the information, their content. And content is another topic I want to touch
Hmm.
later because it is another key aspect. But so in this platform, we are going to provide a number of services, additional services. One of the services is, for example, learning platforms or discussion platform to so that hoteliers can actually learn about these problems, these technology problems that we are talking about, because these problems are affecting them directly indirectly, and maybe they don't realize it immediately, but it is there the problem. So they
So
need to learn. They need to have access to this kind of information.
you know when
Uh,
you see something better. You know when you see a better mousetrap, you're like, oh, our tool's terrible because they're doing it this way. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. So, and this is one of the things, the direction we are going, and we will make available the kind of revenue, let's say revenue optimization suggestions. We will make them available on the platform. They are not yet available through this application for hoteliers, but they will be soon because we are refining these models and we want to be really uh, providing some kind of a value that is unique to hoteliers. We don't want to provide the kind of information they can find on other platforms. So we collect all the data from these our directly contracted hotels, and we want to provide back value to them
Hmm.
as well, not just in terms of bookings, of course, that's the key aspect, but also in a loop of feedback that can improve also how they work, the decisions they
Hmm.
make, and how they can optimize the management of their property.
Yeah. You touched on content, and I think that that's an important piece to talk about a little bit. Uh,
Yeah.
what's tell me your perspective on this. What's relevant? Kind of where do we see opportunities right now?
Yeah, content is really another thing that I was uh, really amazed to see how it was managed in this industry.
Hmm.
We have seen chains with thousands of properties sending us first pictures that were kind of thumbnails, so
Yeah.
low quality that were, I mean, picture is the number one thing that probably users, travelers use to make a decision.
Yeah.
So before even building a room, you should be taking amazing picture of this room,
Yeah.
even as a simulation, because
It's
that's
true.
the number one thing.
You know what's
And
funny though? I'm sorry to cut you off, but what's funny is that since I've been spending a lot more time in the vacation rental space, and content and listing quality, photos and copywriting of how a listing is put together, they there could be there could not possibly be two opposite perspectives within the same industry where vacation rentals spend so much time crafting a listing and getting the right photos and comparing it against your other competitive homes in your market and making sure that you find a way to stand out versus to your point hotels, it's just like a beige room after beige room. down a
Exactly.
down a listing, right? With the odd one, the odd lifestyle hotel has some cool lobby shot, but by and large, everybody's kind of doing the same thing. And so I think you bring up a good point. That's actually something probably that hotels could look at the vacation rental industry and learn from.
I think so. It's true. We also have seen this. We are mostly focused on hotels. We also have a lot of let's say, apartments and rentals, mostly in terms of maybe villas or higher level properties. And we have seen this difference when they want really to attract their property travelers and but we have seen bad practices in the industry, in the hotel industry. They most of the time they don't know how to manage their content, and when they use some of the platforms that are out there, there are a few. Some of them are so damn expensive to and
Yeah.
also closed platforms. And today, managed content, it's really cheap. It is really cheap. So we are actually going to, since we have this, we collect content from these platforms when our hotels are connected to them. And so we get this content from APIs. We also have a distribution API that is a kind of an interface for push channels that many chains are connected directly to us using this standard interface. It is a kind of push, so they can push us everything. And this also has a content. This is one of the few specification with the push as a push channels with content because content is key. It's really key. And we collect data from this API, from this distribution, from directly from the PMS, and we also have this Compass application, the extranet for our hoteliers, where hoteliers can manage all the content.
Mm.
And we collect this content and we make it available through an API, and we are ready to redistribute it. So we actually have some kind of agreement with our hoteliers. If they keep their content well on our platform, we are open to distribute it freely to other platforms because the value of having this data and
As
this
an ins-
content.
yeah, as an incentive for the hotels to create
Exactly,
better content rather than just
exactly.
giving their existing stuff to you and saying, "Here, you fix our problems." You're creating more of a two-way collaborative relationship rather than just sort of a one-off service-based approach.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
as you see, we are really focusing on providing good services to our supply, to the hotels that we are connected to, and we think that by improving their side, we can actually provide better services to our partners and to travelers ultimately. And because we need to improve this chain, this from the hotel to the traveler,
Yeah.
and there is a lot to improve. So simplifying it, it is one of the key aspects, in my opinion.
You brought up the cost piece, and this is something that's always been in the back of my head. I mean, I know that there's a lot of money goes into, to your point earlier, the hardware oftentimes required on site. That even though that might be an antiquated way of doing things, that's still the way things have been done. And so a lot of time and money goes into managing that. There's staff that goes into managing that. A lot of these tools and applications, the legacy ones, are very expensive and very hard to unravel out of your operation. Do you think that one of the reasons why the industry hasn't moved forward in great leaps and bounds in technology adoption and evolution is just because there's a view of this? There's this cost. I've got all this money tied up. I don't want to change to something that's maybe unknown, or maybe I feel like I haven't gotten my values worth out of this yet. so I'm going to hang on to it at all costs.
Um, that's possible. That's a kind of fear that we have seen in other industries years ago when there was this clear trend to move toward the cloud systems. So I remember 20 years ago, any department wanted to have their own uh, mini computer or mainframe or whatever in their department with their data, and so that they have control on it. That's actually not true. It's just a cost. It's just a cost and a problem.
I
So
I've been in those rooms, in the not too distant past, where people still say the same thing. There's reluctance to move to the cloud today in a lot of
yeah,
applications because you want to retain control over your own little kingdom. Yep.
and I mean it's actually just a wrong perception because you can actually have better control of your data if it's in the cloud. Now the systems are so modern and used for any kind of application, and everything should be used in the cloud. I really don't see a point in having your mainframe or your servers in your basement and
Yeah.
just having
Yeah.
problems updating them and managing them and when they break. So this I can understand this kind of reluctance, but it doesn't make any sense today. So we need to help also, I think, hotels to move into this direction. And we have seen that there are more modern systems for hoteliers that they are getting more and more used in the industry that are fully adopted this approach. They are much more open. They make their API publicly available where everybody can make an integration. And this is the kind of direction that we want to follow. We want to actually to see more in the industry.
Hmm.
This is the direction. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
there's a lot to do.
Yeah. A lot to do. A lot to do. You, there's something that we touched on when we spoke before recording a little while back, where we talked about uh, data points and statistics and what the relevant data points are, or maybe not even data points, relevant KPIs as to how well a hotel is performing. And the typical ones have always been occupancy rate, RevPAR, GOP, NOI, however you define it. Those are market share index, or what your star RevPAR index is. Those are pretty typical. Um, how are you guys looking at KPIs for hotels? And is there a better way to be looking at some of these that maybe give? I want to be careful in asking this question because at the end of the day, you know you don't take occupancy to the bank. You take NOI to the bank, right? So I mean, you can put as many vanity metrics in front of any piece of data you want to pat yourself on the back to say you're doing a good job. But I think that we've struggled as an industry to figure out how do we measure success in this new world, especially over the last 2 years and how things are going to now evolve. Um, are you guys looking at this a little bit differently? And if so, how can listeners maybe start to shift their focus a little bit on how they evaluate the success of their business, whether they're using Bidroom or not?
Yeah, of course. Um, this is a very good topic in the end. What we what we want to do is to provide more information, so more actionable information for hoteliers to be more competitive, to be more attractive in their market. And I think this is the first elements that make them more successful. and and for having travelers going back to the hotel, to that property. And this is the first element. We recognize also that in the industry, it's not really always simple to manage these aspects of how revenues are managed, how what does it mean to really have a successful because there is a short-term success and long-term success. Okay, this season or this year can go very well, but are all the travelers that came this year going to come back next year or next time they are in town? Or so how is going to be the hotel in 2, 3, 10 years? This is something that is has to be managed. Okay, so you can manage with price, you can manage with the kind of service you provide, you can manage these aspects also with aspects that are more long term, like for example the value or that is perceived by the traveler, or the kind of hospitality or the kind of service, or so these aspects are key. Also the fact that the traveler feel that he or she has been treated very well, that it was a good deal to stay there, and that they remember we got a good deal staying there. It's not that they get a deal and then they discover that it was not a good deal. Maybe they went when they're back. So these are all long-term things, and we think that by information, providing information to hoteliers is the best way to measure their success compared to others, because everything is relative, and also their success is relative to other hotels, other properties that are around in the same category or in the same region. So these things have to be measured. What was okay today, maybe it's not okay in a year because the market changed. So this is the kind of aggregated information that we want to provide to hoteliers to understand where the market is going.
Yeah. What are some of those different KPIs that are provided through Bidroom that might inform long-term decisions about a hotel over and above occupancy rate, RevPAR, that kind of stuff, the traditional stuff?
Um, as I told you before, I cannot. We are not providing yet this kind of information
Ah,
because we
okay.
are developing new models. So we want to really to give some outstanding data that is not yet available on the market. So we are developing these models with the data that we are receiving and managing now.
It's on the roadmap.
So yes, it is in our roadmap, and this is one of our key objective that we want to provide in the platform.
Yeah.
What we are providing now, it is a simple way to distribute, to connect with us, to manage their property, their content, and manage their bookings in a very transparent way. We don't, for example, we provide all the data that we receive from the guest, from the OTA. We give it directly to the hoteliers. We don't block any kind of information. We don't want to retain travelers. We believe that the traveler belongs to the hospitality property, to the property where he is staying. So we don't want to. We want to be transparent in
I like
this.
that. I like that. Yeah, because a lot of companies they say they own the data. The hotel actually never gets it, and that's a
Exactly.
really important piece, right?
Another aspect we are been working a lot is to provide additional value to our partners from the demand side. And we do this by providing a platform that where the not just discounts are managed, but we all the aspects that regard to extra benefits, so extra value that travelers can get in a property. And every traveler and our partners knows that the properties that are in our platform provide better pricing to closed user groups. And we are focusing a lot on closed user groups because this was let's say, the initial perspective that we wanted to manage to where we can provide better pricing, but also better extras and benefits for travelers. So we have in our platform tools to manage this, the value and all the kind of benefits that hoteliers can have that they want to give to their guests. And so we are focusing on this aspect. So we want to understand how we can provide the best value to travelers so that when our partners companies that are maybe outside of this industry, maybe they are in fintech or traveling, they build, they connect to our APIs or they use one of our white label OTAs. They know that they are providing it to their members the best possible value in terms of discount, in terms of extra benefits, and so on. So this is the key aspect. And in doing this, we try to actually connect what the supply can do and with what the demand is looking for, so the best value. And we are in the middle, but we retain very little because we believe that it is now the time for transparency here, and it has to be clear what the supply can provide to the demand, and it has to be very transparent. In the past, we all know that we had very bad let's say, practices, lack of transparency. The hotels didn't know how their offers were actually used and how, and this is not good. So we want to be really transparent about that.
Yeah. This is a deep well. There's a there's a lot to consider through this entire conversation here, but I think at the end of the day, if there's a better tool out there to help hoteliers address what's going on in the industry today and push the information that they get and the technology that they use forward in a non um, threatening is the wrong word, but in an approachable, manageable way. It's definitely something that hoteliers should be looking at. I appreciate you coming on, Maurizio, to give us a sense of what's going on over at Bidroom. If anybody wants to learn anything more about the company, yourself, where should they go?
I mean, we are going to open this learning platform. There are also links on our website, bidroom.com, where you can reach our platform that is called yugo.travel. And there are a lot of information that you can learn on our blogs, on our platform. Also, learning pages where we can get a better sense of what is going on. What is also the next steps in the industry? We also believe in one thing. Just one last topic is that this kind of because of this bad practice that we have seen in the past. Now hoteliers are a bit scared of of opening up to platforms, and they don't know how their data is used, how they're offering, who is selling their rooms, and That I understand that perspective, but we think that if we provide transparency and that they know what's going on, they can be a lot more open and we can simplify the process of distributing rooms and availabilities on multiple platforms. If some rules are respected and it is transparent and they get all the data about the travelers, this can be done.
It's like the holy grail. That's what we've been wanting. That's what we've been wanting forever. Maurizio, this was a really good conversation. I appreciate you shedding some light on what is a very confusing topic for a lot of operators who are just in the weeds day to day, just trying to keep the doors open and guests coming in. This hopefully helps people elevate their operations to another level. So thanks again for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.